What's up, nerds? My name is Steve from Flipping the Nerd, and this is my top 10 favorite DC films. Now, I've admitted in the past that I'm not a big DC fan. I've always preferred Marvel. I've been watching Spider-Man since I'm a kid, and I never really got into DC Comics. There is a glaring exception to that, and of course, that's Batman. I grew up watching the old Adam West Batman series when I was a kid, and then Batman was one of the only superheroes that put out great movies. And because of that, because I was more of a movie kid, when I did get into comics eventually, I didn't really care for reading any of the DC comics. I read some Superman. Of course, Death of Superman was big when I was an early teen. I read some other, I read some Flash, some Aquaman, some Green Lantern, stuff like that. But it never really grabbed me the way Marvel did. But I do appreciate film, and of course there are a lot of decent DC films, and I want to talk about them. So that's why I made this list. Couple ground rules for this list. Number one, max 3 per franchise. Because, I'll be honest, if I didn't do that, it would pretty much be a Batman list. The Batman films have been, for the most part, amazing. So just so that I avoid that being a top 10 Batman films, which I will do at some point, I have it written down. So that's going to be something to do, but for now, it's going to be 3 max per franchise. However, despite having his name in the title, I'm counting Batman v Superman as a JLA, so a Justice League film, not a Batman film. So if it appears on the list, it does. I'm not counting it as my 3 Batman films. So I'm kind of cheating and putting 4, but I always saw it more as a Justice League film, and a superior Justice League film at that, than the other Justice League film. So that's that. And finally, for maybe the first time ever, I'm not sure, no honorable mentions. None. Why? Because I didn't want to be forced to put something like Green Lantern or Aquaman on this list, because I really, really didn't like those movies. And I don't want to just have honorable mentions for the sake of having them. Usually it's something because I really want to talk about something that is on my top 10. These movies, I couldn't care less about, so I'm not going to mention them. And so let's get into the top 10. Number 10. Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad had a much better premise and first trailer than it actually delivered on film, in my opinion. That first trailer, when they announced Suicide Squad, I was really into. It was dark, it was serious. I liked the characterization of who they were putting into the film. It looked like it was well shot, well just acted. I was really psyched for this movie. But with each additional trailer, it got campier and campier. And I thought that they should really stick to the darkness of this film. And I was really bummed out when I saw the movie and it was just a campy mess. Margot Robbie is amazing as Harley Quinn. I did also surprisingly really like Deadshot, played by Will Smith. But other than that, this movie was not the greatest. I was kind of forcing myself to put this in the top 10. I had to have a 10. I mean, I couldn't do a top 9. That would have just been weird. But Suicide Squad had some moments that could lead to brilliance, but overall was very disappointing. Jared Leto's Joker just did not do it for me. It's maybe the only interpretation of the Joker in film history that I didn't like. So that's saying a lot because I do love that character. If you watch my top 10 clown list, he's number 1. And to have my number 1 clown fail so miserably in this film, very disappointing. So that's that. Number 9. Man of Steel. I really like Henry Cavill as Superman, and I wish that we could get more of him. I'm getting tired of origin stories. We keep seeing him over and over, and that's not necessarily DC's fault. I mean, Marvel's doing it a lot too, and I just want to get to the action, to the what I like about these characters, just kicking some butt in their superhero form. So that's why it's so low on the list, but I was really excited to hopefully see another Superman film with Henry Cavill in it. He is really, really great as that character. And for that reason alone, it's on my list. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like we'll get that. The DCEU completely screwed the pooch. I think he's not in the DCU anymore. It's kind of unsure, but at this point it doesn't look that way. So That's unfortunate because Man of Steel was a pretty solid film. Number 8. Superman. The one with Christopher Reeves, the original. I don't hold the Superman films as high regard as a lot of people do, just because, again, I wasn't a DC fan. They were entertaining, had great music. I loved Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. I loved Christopher Reeves as Superman. So there were a lot of great elements, but they weren't films that I was like just eager to watch or anything like that. But it is a pretty good film. Christopher Reeves really does a good job of selling both Clark Kent and Superman. I really like his performance. I mean, I still think Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor is one of the best DC villains that they've had. Way better than the next Lex Luthor interpretation that we got. So it is a very good film. It's definitely a classic. That theme song is super iconic. There's some great scenes in it, and that's why I put it at my top 10. Number 7. Shazam. Shazam is the newest one on this list. It stars Zachary Levi, who plays a very good Shazam. Shazam, I'll admit, is not a character I ever read, so I didn't know much about who Shazam was, but the movie did a pretty good job at showing us who this character is, what he fights for. There was a lot of comedy in it. It didn't always hit for me. I don't like this movie as much as other people seem to have, but there are some jokes that I enjoyed. I did like the overall film. I thought some of the CGI was pretty poor, but I loved his story with his kind of foster brother there, and overall, I would say that I enjoyed it. Currently, it's sitting somewhere in my top 10 favorite movies that I watched in 2019. And it's been a pretty good year for movies, so that's saying something on its own. And it's something I would recommend for people to watch, especially for a character who, at least for me, wasn't as well known. So give it props for that. Zachary Levi's awesome. I look forward to a second one, and that's why I put him on my list. Number 6. Wonder Woman, starring Gal Gadot, or Gal Gadot, I'm not sure. She is amazing as Wonder Woman. I really liked her appearance in Batman v Superman. I thought that was one of the highlights of that film, and I was really looking forward to seeing Patty Jenkins making her interpretation of the Wonder Woman series. And I really dug this film. Wonder Woman, again, is not one of the characters I really gravitated to as a kid, so I didn't know much about her. Now, I had seen her more because she was part of the Justice League, so I'd seen her in Superman comics, I'd seen her in other comics, but it's not a character I really knew, and I really dug the interpretation of what they did in this movie. It's a very solid film. Where I dock it points a little bit is I'm kind of tired of going back in the past, like prequels. I always want to move forward. I'm tired of moving backwards, and to have a period piece in World War II was kind of a bummer for me. I'm really just tired of seeing that. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing a Wonder Woman kind of later on. But the next one's in the 80s, which could be cool. I mean, I'm from the 80s, so that'll be something else. So I really liked Wonder Woman. I thought it was a solid film. My biggest critique, other than the period piece part, is I didn't like the villain at all. I thought it was a poor villain, which a lot of these DC films unfortunately suffer from. But overall, very solid film, and one of my favorites. I think it was last year or 2 years ago. Number 5. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. The more I see this film, the more I like it. I really didn't like it the first time I saw it. Then I watched it again, and I liked it a little bit more. Then again and again, and I've probably seen it 10 times. It's just a movie I like to put in the background when I'm cleaning my basement or something, because I don't have to concentrate on it. I don't like it enough for that. But at the same time, I like it enough that I like to have it on in the background. And it is growing on me every time. I do like this interpretation of Batman. I think Ben Affleck could have been a great Batman had we continued with his story. Henry Cavill is awesome. I really like him as Superman. So those are two elements that I really enjoyed seeing these personalities clash. We have Wonder Woman added to this one, which was fantastic. Gal Gadot does a great job with that character. My problems with the film: it was a little muddy. I didn't like the whole Martha thing. I thought that was stupid. I thought Lex Luthor was just an awful representation, and I like Jesse Eisenberg. Don't get me wrong, I just don't think he fit for this role. I never felt like that was a good villain for this film. And was it, oh my god, Doomsday was like, a giant CGI monster. It just didn't really do much for me there either. But I was looking forward to seeing Justice League on the back of this film. And it's kind of gone up over the years. I don't know if I think it's probably plateaued at this point. I've seen enough. But surprisingly, I made it a pretty high number on the list given what my original thoughts are. And that's why I tend to always give at least a second chance to a movie, because it always depends on your mood. And maybe I was just in a bad mood. Maybe my expectations were too high. I don't know what it was, but I gave it another chance and I'm really happy I did. And that's why it's appearing here at number 5. Number 4. The Dark Knight Rises. The Christopher Nolan Batman series is my favorite trilogy. Well, my favorite of like the, I guess, Batman films like put together. You know, there's the 60s version, there's the Tim Burton version, there's the Joel Schumacher version, there's the Nolan version, and now we're going, I guess there's also the kind of the Ben Affleck era, and now we're going into the, I guess, Robert Pattinson era, so that'll be interesting too. But my favorite one of all those eras is the Nolan series, and I thought Dark Knight Rises was really good. It introduced Catwoman to that series. We got to kind of see Robin in a way, and we got Bane, which was a character I was never really into. It's not one of my favorite Batman characters, despite being a big Batman film, but Tom Hardy did a great job, despite his really muzzled mouthpiece and everything, which was a little off, but it worked for this film. I really enjoyed it. I actually liked it better than Batman Begins, which you won't see on this list because it was my 4th favorite Batman film, or maybe 5th even. So yeah, sorry, Batman Begins. But Dark Knight Rises is one I like to watch. It's a little tough to watch. It's a little long. It drags in some parts. But overall, I thought it was a really solid film. And in my opinion, a pretty good ending for the Nolan trilogy. And that's why I put it on my list. Number 3. Batman, the movie. This is the, Michael Keaton version of Batman with, of course, the amazing Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I absolutely love this Batman version. It's just, I was a kid when I saw it, and it was just so cool to see Batman, the Batmobile, and it's just so fantastic. And I didn't think Michael Keaton would make necessarily a great Batman, but he nailed it both as Batman and as Bruce Wayne. And of course, Jack Nicholson is the man. He's my second favorite interpretation of the Joker, spoiler alert. But it's a fantastic representation of that character. It's just a lot of fun in that movie. They had a good time with it. There are a lot of great memorable scenes in it, and it is a overall really fantastic film and a very fantastic DC film. It was very close, my number 2, but I like my number 2 just a little bit better, and it's actually not a Batman film, which is surprising because they've all been Batman films in the last couple, and there will be another one later. So there you go. But Batman, the movie, the 1989 or 1990 version, definitely need a spot on the list. Number 2. The Watchmen. Yes, some people probably forgot that was even a DC film. Zack Snyder, before he started screwing the pooch with Justice League, made Watchmen, and I know that the writer Moore really hated this one, but I really liked the Watchmen film. I thought it was so well shot, kind of like in the same style as 300 was, which is also a Zack Snyder film. It was really well acted. It was very cinematic. It was like a cinematic film, and I really, really, really dig The Watchmen. The characters were great, the story was great, the acting was great. There's really not a lot that I don't like about this movie. Everybody plays their role so well. Patrick Wilson as Night Owl plays his role really well, and I forget his name, Jeffrey Dean Morgan plays his role as the comedian really well, and Rorschach, the guy who played Freddy, Jackie Earl Grey. Everyone in this film brought their A game, and it was fantastic. Now, I will admit, I saw the film before I read the comic, although I did read the comic. So maybe that's why I liked it so much, because I didn't have the reference point of the comic. But as someone who went in, kind of just not really expecting anything, I was blown away by how amazing this movie is, from the music to the shot to everything. Just everything about this movie is amazing, and this could have easily been a #1 film, but of course there's one that I liked a little bit more. #1, The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is my favorite DC film of all time. The music, and the Nolan kind of style, Christian Bale as Batman and Bruce Wayne, which are super fantastic, and Heath Ledger as the Joker. One of my favorite villains in any movie ever. He really took this role on and made something special out of it. And I really, really, really dug that. He was just so good. Every line that he delivered was perfectly delivered. He wasn't in the film all that much, and that worked so well, because when he is on screen, you're excited to see him again, and he just steals every scene that he's in. This movie is fantastic, and I absolutely adore it. So that's easily, I think, my #1. I never even really considered Watchmen as #1. It could have been because I loved it so much, but The Dark Knight is such a fantastic film in every way that I never really thought of it as anything but my #1. What are your favorite DC films? Do you think I'm completely off base by saying DC films are not as great? Yes, some of these are fantastic. The top 5 or 6 here, really great films. And the other ones are decent, but I still don't think they hold a candle to Marvel. Dark Knight, Watchmen do, but all the other ones I think aren't even close. But that's my opinion. What are your favorite DC films? I'd love to know. Do you think maybe I missed one? Did you like Aquaman? I really didn't like Aquaman. It's directed by James Wan. It's got Patrick Wilson in it. And it just, there's a lot of things I thought I would love about it, but I didn't. The Green Lantern, same thing. There's just a lot of movies I just didn't like in the DC universe. But I'd love for you to tell me why I should, and maybe give one another shot. I watched Aquaman twice, by the way, so that's not that. So let me know in the comments below. And just on a side personal note, I'm going to be at Toronto Fan Expo next week. So if you're planning to go to Toronto Fan Expo, I will be there on a Saturday. So hit me a line. I would love to meet up with you and say hello at the very least. I think it would be really cool to meet some of you. So that's that. And next week, I'm doing my top 10 favorite horror Funko Pops. I'm a big Funko Pop fan. I was late to the game in a Funko Pop, and most of them are horror, so I'd like to show you my top 10 favorite ones. I think it's going to be a fun video where I can actually show you something as opposed to just talking about it and putting things on screen. So I think that'll be a fun list to do. And check me out on the 3 Guys That Horror podcast on all of the podcast places you can find, and you can find them on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and 3guysthathorror@gmail.com. I've been super lucky to be a guest for the past few weeks, and I've had a lot of fun, and I will be continuing doing that for a little while. So check me out there as well, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all on the flip side.